Right, so part 3, Rezum. Up to now it's not been a pleasant ride, I've got to tell you. I don't regret having it done at all, but the after effects and recovery, in my experience, has not been a good experience or an easy experience. So here's the state of play right now. I was too impatient to take the catheter out, so that's my fault. I take responsibility for that. So what happened on Sunday afternoon, today is Monday, so Sunday afternoon about lunchtime I decided, like I said on the last video, part 2, I said, okay, I took the catheter out. So I removed it myself. I gave reasons why in part 2. One was for selfish reasons. I wanted to get out in the sunshine and on my bike and back to some sort of normal life. And 2 was to go and see my friend Bob up in the nursing home. I visit Bob daily, and since I've had this procedure, of course I hadn't visited him because I was in the UK. I'm in Jersey. I'm on an island called Jersey, so I had to fly out to the UK, Cambridge, Addenbrookes Hospital, UK. But I can't praise them enough. They did a brilliant job, great care, and Dr. Catheter apparently is one of the leading experts on this type of procedure, the Rezum procedure. I can't comment fully until 6 weeks have passed, really, 5-6 weeks have passed. I should, according to Mr. Catheter, I should have some good results after 2 weeks. Up to now, it's been awful. My own fault for taking the catheter out too early. I've been stuck in the house all day because what happened was I took the catheter out yesterday afternoon, like I said, and then as planned I went out on the bike. I went up and saw my friend Bob at the nursing home. Everything was great. I came back, had dinner. I even had a glass of cold red wine, which is how I like my red wine. That night I went to bed. I always go to bed late, but anyway, I went to bed last night, and as per usual, I woke up about an hour and a half later. I mean, I wake up several. When I say several, I'm talking about 4 or 5 times a night I'll wake up. That's no big deal. I've learned to manage my poor sleeping habits and not get stressed. Anyway, I woke up, and then I thought, all right, I need to go to the toilet. So I went to the toilet and nothing came out. I wasn't sure whether it was because of the sensitivity and the irritation in my prostate and my urethra, whether it was kidding me on, whether I needed to go or I really didn't need to go. I wasn't sure, but anyway, not a drop came out, and so I went back to bed. I didn't panic. I went back to bed. I didn't try and sleep. I thought I'll just sort of be aware of it. And about an half an hour later, I got back up to go again because I felt it a little bit more urgent this time. Still nothing. Well, I tell a lie, a couple of drops. It was like an eyedropper, and I thought, I think there's something wrong here, but it wasn't urgent. It wasn't, it felt, I knew I wanted to go, but it wasn't like a panic. I wasn't in a panic, and so I went back to bed again, and I thought I'll just give it another half hour. In fact, this time I drank some water. I drank some water purposely to make me go to the toilet. I never do that during the night because I go too much during the night normally, before the surgery, and so, but this time I needed to know. So what happened was After another half hour, I went to the toilet and it was like an eyedropper again, and I thought, all right, I'm in trouble here. There was nothing coming out. So I'd given it a couple of hours and there was still nothing coming out, and I thought, all right. So I went straight to the kitchen. Fortunately, I hadn't thrown the original catheter away, so I put a saucepan on because I needed obviously to sterilise it. Put a saucepan of water on and stuck it in there with some salt water. Put some salt in there to sterilise it. Sterilised it, and then I put it in fresh water and boiled that and sterilised it that way too. Took it out, give it a couple of minutes to cool down. While it was still wet, of course you don't want to dry, because I didn't have the gel to re-catheterise myself, you see. So I knew it was going to be quite painful, and I'd never done it, but it had to be done. And so I just re-catheterised myself just with the catheter wet without the gel that they normally put on. It's an antiseptic gel that they squirt down your urethra with a syringe, and it makes first of all, it's an antiseptic, and secondly, it makes it much easier to introduce the catheter. Well, I didn't have that, so I sort of manipulated and twisted the catheter down my urethra and back into my bladder. I managed it fairly quickly. I was surprised, actually. I got a container. I wanted to see if I really did need to go to the toilet, and it's confusing. Anyway, almost 2 pints of urine came out of my bladder, and there was such a relief, and I thought, my God, so I'm in trouble. I thought, I'm in trouble. So I know everybody has a different experience when they have a similar type of surgery, but this is my experience. And so what I did then, I went back to the kitchen. My bladder was empty. Now I introduced the water, the sterile water, into the balloon to anchor it into my bladder so the catheter wouldn't fall out of my bladder, you see. Anyway, what happened was I'd apparently damaged the catheter as I was introducing it back into my re-catheterizing myself. I must have damaged the catheter, and I was having a steady flow of water and urine coming out of the catheter and not where it should come out. It was by the flip flow lock and further up, and so I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it, so I was doing everything I could with paper towels. I got a towel. I allocated a towel to catch it all. I had no option but to ring the emergency service, and this would have been about, I rung the emergency service about 3 to 4 o'clock, something like that. I explained what had happened. I said, it's not a panic, look, it's not a panic, I'm just letting you know that I need a new catheter. I explained I'd had a surgery in England. Anyway, they said, okay, if it's not an emergency, we're not going to allocate you an ambulance immediately. I said, that's fine, don't worry. So they actually arrived about an hour and a half later. So by this time, we're talking about 6 o'clock in the morning now. Anyway, we got to the hospital, and the male nurse who saw me was just finishing his shift. He said, don't worry. He said, I've got the details. He said, just lay yourself down. I'm going to get this new catheter in you. Don't worry about it. Anyway, used the gel, but it was a thicker catheter. I don't know why, but it was a thicker catheter. And he said, I'm going to want you to take some deep breaths, and I want you to be doing some coughing when I tell you. And I understood why he said it, because it was quite painful, because I'd already irritated it by. So this was quite painful when he finally inserted. Even with the gel, it was quite painful. So anyway, he managed to get it in. It was a nice tight fit. Initially, he left me with a bag, and I said, look, my friend, I appreciate what you've done, but I don't want a bag. And there's a good reason why you shouldn't go home with a bag. Now I've had a catheter a couple of times now. I had one good few years ago while I was in hospital, and they've just left me with a bag hanging on the side of the bed. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that. What happens is, if you're left with a bag, quite often your bladder forgets how to urinate normally. So often when the catheter is removed, so with the bag and the catheter removed, this is what I found quite a few years ago, that I couldn't pee for about 4 hours, and they kept not threatening me, but they said, look, if you don't start urinating soon, we're going to have to introduce the catheter again. And I was trying to try every trick in the book. There was no way they were putting that catheter back in me, but I know if it was absolutely necessary, of course I couldn't refuse it. It fortunately happened, so I remembered that. So I didn't want the bag. So when he gave me the bag this morning in the hospital, I said, look, my friend, and I told him, gave him the story, a brief version of it, and I said, I want a flip flow lock on the catheter. And he said, well, I'm finishing. He says, and I haven't got one handy, but I'm going to pass this message on, and they will bring you down a flip flow. I said, okay, thank you very much. It meant another wait because they were handing over to the day staff. So I didn't get seen till about 9 o'clock this morning to swap the bag over for a flip flow. I'd about had it up to here by then, with the discomfort as well. They put the flip flow on. The taxis were completely, they were all busy. Every company was busy. I eventually phoned a friend of mine, Jimmy, and he agreed to pick me up outside the hospital. Thanks, Jimmy. Much appreciated. And originally the catheter was supposed to be removed Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Now, because of my impatience, I've introduced more swelling and irritation to my prostate and my urethra. So I'm thinking it's not going to be removed tomorrow. I understand that. Nobody's told me that. But I don't want to go through that not being able to urinate once it's removed. So I'm going to suffer this for another couple of days. And then if I don't get a letter through from the hospital by, let's say, Wednesday, late Wednesday, I will remove it myself. And then hopefully the Wednesday, I'm thinking Wednesday or Thursday now, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. I might have a talk with somebody at the hospital, the urologist, before I remove it. So that's where we are now. And so this is warts and all of recovery from prostate surgery, specifically Rezum, steam treatment. It's not the Rezum that's been the problem. It's been the after recovery. It's been the catheter. It's been my impatience. So don't think it's the surgery that's been the problem. It isn't. Apparently, well, I know because I researched this surgery before I had it done. They'd offered me 2 other procedures, and I said no, because the potential side effects were horrendous for the 2 they offered me. In fact, I said to one urologist here in Jersey, I said, hold on a sec, would you have that if they offered that to you if you were in this predicament? I said, I don't think you would. You'd go for the Rezum, but we don't do it here in Jersey. I said, I know you don't. So I'm going to be patient, which is unlike me. Put me on a waiting list and I'll wait for however long it takes, but that's the surgery I want, please. So there we are. So I'm not sure there's anything else. It's been horrendous today, just been stuck in the house. But I've got to suck it up, and I've got to get on with it. I've switched from low carb eating OMAD to, I've mentioned this before, to Carnivore, and you wouldn't believe how, you'd think eating Carnivore is very bland. It's not. It's fantastic because you still use variety. You don't just say have steak and eggs. That's not what you do. So for tonight, for instance, I had beef mince, pork mince, beef tallow, which is my saturated fat. I introduced 3 eggs to that. I had Waitrose meatballs, and I also had a sirloin steak tenderized. So I cooked the mince and the eggs in a very large pan with saturated fat. I oven cooked the steak, which took about 2 minutes because I wanted it, I didn't want it too well done. The meatballs took about 10 minutes. I took them out of the oven. I poured all the fat from those 2 meats into the mince. I cut up the steak into bite-sized chunks. I threw that all in, gave it a stir around, and then I put my cheeses on top and just melted the cheese. And then that plate full of Carnivore food was just absolutely amazing. And then for dessert, there's no more berries, there's no more fruit, no sugar. So I had full fat yogurt, a little bit of full fat yogurt, and some double cream. So that was my dessert, and that's how we are for now. And while my insulin spiked, I've got coffee with big full fat milk in those 2 hours that I'm eating. In the morning, of course, for the next 22 hours after this, it's always black coffee and carbonated water. So, I mean, it would have been much nicer, it would have been much more pleasant, this recovery, if it would have been winter and I wasn't missing out on anything. But it's boiling hot, I'm missing all this fantastic weather. I love to get out on my bike, but I've got to think of my health first. Okay, so and that's lovely, that is. So there we are just now. They are the warts and all. Actually, my brother, one of my brothers who lives in America, he's having the same, he's going to have the same surgery at some point. At the moment he's on medication just to normalise his urination flow. And apparently it works very well, but he doesn't want to be on medication for the rest of his life. So he's having the same surgery as I am, but unfortunately in America, even though they've got medical insurance, he still has out of pocket for thousands of dollars. So they can't just do it just like that, unlike we can in the UK. We're lucky enough to have the National Health Service. So I wanted to give my brother a warts and all. So you guys have got a warts, but I've given my brother an X-rated warts and all version. That was just for his eyes only, because he's going to be going through this surgery. And of course I couldn't put that up on normal YouTube for public viewing, because it is X-rated with what I say and what I show. If I know you and I feel comfortable about sharing the warts and all version, then I will. But unfortunately, if we're just sort of YouTube buddies, then I just can't share the link with you. It's too X-rated and too personal. So, but what I've given you is a true account of my personal experience. So I'll either do part 4 tomorrow, record part 4 tomorrow, or I'll leave it till Wednesday. And I've never wished time away like this, but I just want this catheter out. But I'm not going to be impatient this time. I'm going to do the right thing for my health. Okay, so I will see you in part 4. Okay, bye for now.